There are games you close and immediately move on from. Games that end cleanly. Games that resolve themselves. Games that give you a final screen, a sense of completion, and permission to leave. You finish them, uninstall them, and they quietly disappear from your life. And then there are games leave you open. Not literally, but emotionally. Games that don't feel finished when the credits roll. Games that follow you into the quiet moments afterward, into the silence between tasks, into the space where your thoughts wander when nothing is demanding your attention. Until then, it's one of those games. People didn't finish it and say, that was good. They didn't say, that was impressive. They didn't say, that was fun. They said things like, I don't know how to explain what this made me feel. I kept thinking about it. I didn't expect it to hurt like that. And those reactions aren't posted because they didn't come from spectacles. They didn't come from difficulty. They didn't come from surprise twists or dramatic reveals. They came from something quieter. They came from recognition. And the feeling that the game had quietly understood something about them, something personal, something unspoken, and then refused to explain it away. Until then, doesn't ask you to be impressed. It asks you to sit with it, and that's what stays. This video is about why Until Then is sad. It's about why it is loved, and why, even after it ends, people still long for it. Chapter 1: Confidentiality, Quiet Beginning. Most games open with a hook, something loud, something urgent, something that immediately tells you, pay attention, this matters, or something's about to happen. Until then, does the opposite. It opens with stillness, with ordinary movement, with routine, with moments that don't demand urgency or reaction. You walk, you observe, you exist. From a development standpoint, this is risky. Silence in game is often treated as a failure state, as a lack of confidence, as something that needs to be filled with music, mechanics, dialogue, instruction. But here, silence is intentional. It isn't empty, it's controlled. The game isn't unsure of itself, it's patient. And that patience communicates something before the player consciously notices it. If you stay, this will matter. Not because something dramatic is about to happen, but because something human is. Chapter 2. This was never a time story. At first glance, Until Then looks like a story about time. Moments repeat, events fracture, reality refuses to stay aligned. But time isn't the point. Time is a symptom. The game doesn't use time to empower the player. It doesn't offer mastery. It doesn't offer correction. It uses time to take control away. Because grief doesn't move forward, it circles. It revisits, it replays, it returns to the same moment again and again and again. Not to change it, but to understand it. The game never stops to explain this. It doesn't label it, it doesn't teach it. It builds it through repetition without resolution, through change that doesn't prove anything, through movement that never feels like progress. You don't learn about grief in Until Then. You experience its structure. And that structural honesty is why players connect to it so deeply. Chapter 3. Why Nothing Had to Happen. For a long time, nothing really happens in Until Then. At the start, you walk, you wait, you scroll through messages on your phone, you return to familiar paces. And for some players, that felt uncomfortable. But that discomfort isn't a flaw, it's the foundation. Emotion needs contrast. You can't miss something you were never allowed to live inside. By letting the player exist in routine, by letting normalcy stretch out, the game creates emotional baseline. Normal life stops being a backdrop. It becomes something you inhabit. So when something breaks, it doesn't feel scripted. It feels invasive. That's why players didn't feel like tragedy happened to a character. It happened to them. Chapter 4. Characters who don't wait for you. The characters Until Then don't exist to reassure you. They don't pause for clarity. They don't wait for emotional readiness. They don't structure themselves around your understanding. From a narrative perspective, this is intentional discomfort. Conversations end too early. Moments pass without payoff. Understanding arrives late, sometimes too late. Mark's silence isn't mystery, it's avoidance. And the game doesn't step in to save you from that. You hesitate, you delay, you assume there will be time later, and then the moment is gone. You don't fail because you chose wrong. You fail because you didn't choose. And that truth is painfully familiar. Chapter 5. Multiple endings, same wound. Until then, has multiple endings. But none of them feel like escape. Because the endings aren't rewards, they're reflections. Each one mirrors a different way of carrying loss, holding on, letting go, accepting incompleteness. But none of them undo what happens, and that's why they work. The game doesn't tell you which ending is correct, it lets you decide which one feels honest. Chapter 6. Delusion of Control. The game gives you choices, but it never lies about what they can do. Choices shape tone, they shape closeness, they shape regret. They do not change fate. And that realization hurts because it feels real. You can't always save the moment. You can only decide how present you were before it passed. Chapter 7. Silence at Trust. The game trusts silence. It trusts the player to sit with uncertainty. It trusts them to feel without being guided. And that trust is rare. Chapter 8, Why People Grieve This Game. People didn't talk about until then like entertainment. They talked about like something they lost. Because the game didn't promise healing. It offered recognition. And recognition can hurt more than sadness. Until then isn't hope. It's a pause, a space between now and never. And maybe that's why the game was loved. Because it didn't try to fix grief, it honored it.